Hi, today we're going to learn about independent and dependent variables. So our objective is to identify independent and dependent variables, and this is page 51. All right, well, first of all, an independent variable is a variable that determines the value of the dependent variable. So determines is the key word there. It's kind of like what would I need to know first, or what comes first. The dependent variable is a variable whose value depends on the independent variable. So what I think about is I'm an independent. I can take care of myself. I make my own money. As a student, you are a dependent. You depend on your parents for all of that. So you could think of your parents as an independent variable and the child as the dependent variable. Okay? The dependent variable depends or relies on this independent variable. So here's some examples. We have hours worked and we have money earned. I would first have to know how many hours I worked so that I could determine how much money I earned. Okay? The money I make depends on how many hours I work. Next one, car speed and the distance traveled in an hour. So if I only gave you an hour, the distance that you go depends on how fast you were going. So if you're going 30 miles per hour, you would have gone 30 miles. If you're going 60 miles per hour, you would have gone 60 miles. Okay, so it depends on the car speed, so I would need to know the car speed first to calculate that. And my last example would be temperature and the amount of water evaporated. So if I give you a given time, then the higher the temperature, the more water that's going to evaporate out in the form of steam. All right, so right here I have a table, and it says a train moves at a constant speed. The distance y in miles that the train has traveled after x hours is shown in the table. So we have x, we have 0, 1, 2, 3 for hours, and then our miles, 0, 50, 100, 150. All right, and this is x and this is y. Your x is always going to be the independent variable, and your distance is going to be dependent. Now, since x is the independent variable, what I like to think of is if you put your body into an x, you can stand up without any problem. You can stand up by yourself or independently. If you make your body into a y, stand on one leg, you might start to get a little wobbly and fall over because the y, you might depend on something else to keep you standing. Okay? So x is independent, y is dependent. All right. So right here, what are the quantities in the situation? Well, time and distance. And time is in hours. And distance is in miles. All right, so our independent variable, well, if I think about this, I know I already told you here, but if I think about this, which one would I need to know first? Would I need to know how much time has passed to figure out the distance, or would I need the distance to figure out the time? Well, almost always, if time is one of the variables, it's going to be independent. You can't really control time. So time is going to be independent, and then based on how much time has passed, I can determine or figure out how many miles I've gone. So independent variable would be time, and then this one would be distance. All right, so how far does the train travel each hour? Well, you can see the first hour it went 50 miles, the second one it went 100, the third one it went 150. So that means it's going 50 miles, an additional 50 each time. So 50 miles per hour, or mph. Now, if I think about this, is it additive or multiplicative? If I go from 1 to 50, am I adding anything? Well, that would be plus 49, but if I do 2 plus 49, that doesn't work. And 0 plus 49 wouldn't be 0. So let's see, what if I try multiplying? 1 times what would be 50? Well, times 50. So 1 times 50 is 50, that works. 2 times 50, 100. 3 times 50, 150. 0 times 50, 0. So that works. So it's multiplicative. Now, describe how the value of the independent variable relates to the dependent variable. Well, one thing we could say is the distance traveled depends on the time passed. Okay, if I told you 5 hours, you would be able to calculate how many miles I've gone by multiplying by 50. All right, so here's another example. So this was from a table. Now looking from a graph, Wendy has 5 hair bows but wants to buy more. The amount of hair bows she buys and her total hair bows are shown in the graph below. So we have hair bows, we have total hair bows. First of all, let's label the X and Y axis. So this axis right here is our X axis, and this is our Y axis. Now remember, I told you a little trick. If you know what belongs to the X axis or your X variable, well, that's your independent. So I already know that this should be independent, and let's see, does it make sense? Well, if I figure out how many hair bows I bought, then I should be able to figure out the total. So yes, I would need to know how many I bought before I can know the total that I have. So the independent variable would be hair bows bought making the dependent variable the total hair bows. All right, and so if I were to start, this would be 0, right? When I have bought 0 hair bows, how many do I have? Well, I have 5 because they had 5 to begin with. So this is counting by 5s. 5, 10, 15, 20. Okay, and then over here, I can count by 5s over here too. So if I were to buy 5 hair bows, well, now you'd have 10. If I were to buy 10 hair bows, now I'd have 15. So basically, it's 5 more than what you're buying because she had 5 to start out with. So would that be additive or multiplicative? Well, it'll make it easier if I make a little table. So here's X and Y. So if my first value of X would be 0 and my Y would be 5. Okay, then I could do 5, 10. Then 10, 15, then 15, 20. Okay, let's stop there. How am I getting from 0 to 5? Am I multiplying by something or adding? Well, plus 5 would work, so let's see. 5 plus 5 is 10. 10 plus 5 is 15. 15 plus 5 is 20. So I'm adding 5 each time, so this is an additive relationship. Now describe how the value of the independent variable is related to the dependent variable. Well, I can say the total hair bows depends on the hair bows bought. All right, well, that's it. We'll keep practicing in class, and thanks for watching.